Hi, everyone. Welcome to Life in the Suburbs with Sharon. I am a mom and wife and a real estate agent with Compass Real Estate in the Philadelphia area. I I've lived in White Marsh Township and the Philadelphia suburbs my entire life. And since selling real estate for the past 10 years, also in the area, I've decided that this community has such amazing people and businesses that I've decided to bring a podcast to the area. Um, I am interviewing lots of interesting people and also business owners. So please check in on a regular basis. I Today I'm going to talk my little bit of realtor wisdom is about how to some of the top priorities when you're looking for a house. So we're dealing with a lot of times we're dealing with home buyers, and they're specifically looking for a couple of top tier items like the size of the house, um, the location, the whether it has a beautiful kitchen or not, which seems kind of silly, but that's what people are looking for in today's world. But one of the top priorities for a ton of buyers when they have school age children is the school district. So people are always talking to their real estate agent about how to find out information about their school district. And this is the easiest thing to find out. There's a website called greatschools.org, that posts everything. They have all the information, including, breaking it down, not just by the district, also by the specific school, how many elementary schools are in that district, et cetera. So I actually always use that as a resource for the towns, especially when I was starting in the business, for the towns I didn't know as well. So it's a great resource. And also take the time. I sort of learned this from one of my buyers. Take the time one day in the morning and the afternoon around 3 o'clock and drive around the neighborhoods that you think you like. You're going to see how many kids are in the neighborhood. You're going to see what kind of families are around supporting their children. So that's a little bit of a tidbit of advice for you today. Now we are going to get started. Today we are talking to Shelby Leight. She is a realtor with Keller Williams Realty in the Quakertown area. Shelby and I met years ago. 5-6 years ago, back through a networking group. We've developed to be a great resource for each other in each other's businesses. So welcome, Shelby.
Thank you so much for having me. I am truly honored to be part of this.
Oh, yeah. Well, so this is what happens is that Shelby she's a master networker, and she really helps others in their businesses and also probably in their life. But she's taken it sort of to another level with real estate agents, because instead of looking at us as competition, she looks at everybody as a great resource for each other.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
really, I mean, we're not in the same office together, but you have always reached out and you've always wanted to compare notes and really wanted to support each other's businesses, and even we're referral partners at this point because we
Yeah.
really don't work each other's areas that tightly
Right.
as closely as we should. So when I have somebody out further, Quakertown and Northwest, they go to Shelby. So I have gotten some feedback from people, from my listeners, that they really want to hear a little bit more about real estate. I sort of took on this venture, this journey, as
Mhm.
like, I live in a great community. I want to share. I'm so excited. I'm going to share with everybody. And then it became, well, Sharon, people actually want to hear about a little bit about your real estate knowledge, right? So
Right.
you live it every day. Let's talk real estate. So Shelby and I bundled together and decided to talk about our 2024 real estate predictions and news and information that we can share with everybody. So we're going to have a lot to cover. So press record if you want to hear this again, and let's get started. Shelby, let's start by sharing with our listeners a little bit about you. When you started in real estate, you joined the KW office in Quakertown.
Mhm.
I'm correct about that, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
you are correct.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about you, starting about, before then and through to today. We just want a little history.
So, started in real estate with Keller Williams back in 2014. My team leader was actually my landlord for a different business that I owned. And my business was closing, my marriage was ending, and my landlord was my team leader, Vicky Landis. And she asked me, what are you going to be doing when you close your business? It was a construction business. And I said, I really don't know. Before owning my own construction business, I was a salaried manager with Home Depot for 14 years. So always been in that home improvement thing. And she's like, well, why don't we, explore what might happen? And took me on as an admin for her team, where I learned the back end of real estate from 2014 to 2015 and said, wow, I can do this. And went and got my license in 2015 and the end of 2015 and started selling right away. And fast forward to now, yeah, I probably sell anywhere between 20 to 30 homes a year and love first-time home buyers and new construction and all of it.
And you've never left your team. I mean, it's
I
rare
haven't.
in real estate to not move around to brokerages and things. So,
Yeah.
um, tell me your thought on that.
So I love KW to begin with. Our motto is God, family, then business. And being a strong Christian woman that I am, my team leader is as well. And she stuck out for me and took me under her wing at the beginning, that my loyalty level to her, like she's a sister to me. And I love KW. I just the training that they provide and the resources that we have, it's my philosophy and my values.
It's funny, I'm still asking you these questions, even though I left. I started at KW
Uh-huh.
and left. I think when I met you, I was already gone from there.
You
Left
were.
there after 3 years or so, or something like that, and then went to Caldwell. And I mean, obviously, I'm now with
That's
Compass.
when I met you, when you were at Caldwell.
Yeah, yeah. So now I'm with Compass, and hopefully, this is my home for a while. I've actually been here the longest so far, which doesn't feel like it just because of COVID. But I
Hmm.
started with Compass in November of 2019.
Okay.
So that's just a little backstory of me
Hmm.
that we're here to talk about that. Let's break into the subject of today's market. I mean, what do we hear all the time? I mean, besides like home buyer and seller questions, right? What do we
Hmm.
hear all the time? So what are, oh, I was going to start this a little bit
I
different.
want you to start this. I want to hear what your thoughts are, because I'm sure I'm going to agree with you.
Well, it's like we read the same stuff, right? We
Right.
get in the news, we watch the regular news, we read whatever we read, and we hear from our brokerage what they want to share with us. And I mean, we're seeing it. It's not like we have to, we're watching it, but we're seeing it. So what's changing? The interest rates are coming down. I mean, they were up, they
Hmm.
touched and into 8% last
Hmm.
fall.
Yeah.
And now they're coming down. I understand they're in about the mid sixes, plus or minus, depending on what kind of rate loan you're taking, which is a great drop, right? But
Right.
it's still not where people were just a year and a half ago when we were at about
But
3%.
those interest rates were, never before and probably never again. I mean, that was a phenomenon all on its own.
Well, we don't want another worldwide pandemic, right? That's
Correct.
really what sparked that. I mean, the interest rates were low prior to that, but it was definitely the pandemic that sparked it to try to get people to do anything and spend
Right.
any sort of money. So what that creates is it doesn't follow. Here's one thing I want to talk about. It's not following the rules of economics. The rules of economics is the prices go up, the demand goes down, right?
Hmm.
Hasn't
Yep.
happened in real estate.
Nope.
So like we've been seeing the interest rates going up and the demand and the house prices are continuing to go,
Correct.
right? The demand may have softened, obviously, but the house prices have continued to go up, which is
Hmm.
completely backwards to the law of economics that anybody ever taught. So it's like, how do you explain that to your client? I'm going to ask you this because you deal with a lot of new first time home buyers like me. Like,
Hmm.
what do you say when they go, well, the prices are going to come down because the interest rates are up? We're like, okay, what do you say?
No, I mean, we know that they're not. Taking a look at I mean, what increases more than anything is the value of your home. It's an investment for you. So you're growing that. And it's funny because interest rates, you and I were talking about this the other day. and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead with your questions,
You're good. You're good.
but worrying about what the interest rate is now and waiting for it to go down is ridiculous, because you should be buying whenever, right? So you have a term that you use. Go ahead and use it. I won't steal that from you.
So we date the rate, we marry the house, right? Which
And
some people.
explain what that means.
So what that means is, oh, by the way, Shelby is also an interviewer. So
Sorry. Well, we want you to be talking about real estate too,
this
right?
is perfect. So date the rate because we can all refinance, right? There's two parts to it, right? We can always refinance when the prices come down to, you know, a more historically normal, which actually right now at 6.5, it is a historically normal rate.
Right.
That being said, the other thing is people typically only stay in their houses it used to be 5 to 7 years. Right now it's going a little bit longer. So 7 to 9 years is about the average. If you add all that up over all these years of a slightly higher, even a 1% higher interest rate, 1.5% higher interest rate, the amount of the difference is so much smaller than waiting to purchase a house
Right.
a year or two after now, where the prices are expected to be between 4 to 6 to 7% higher.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what they're saying. In the next 5 years, homes up to 2028 is the most recent thing that I had read, that you're going to see a 3 to 5% increase in
Every year.
Every year.
Every year. So what that means is, let's say our average sale price is about $500,000. 5% is $25,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, some really simple math.
Right.
I don't know if you actually spend that much more in interest over a 5-year period.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or 2 or 3 year period. So all you're doing by waiting is increasing the pricing of your house, because
Right.
you know, the housing prices were going up crazy for 2 years. I mean, there were 2 years in a row back to back that were double digits. It was somewhere between 15 or 20% each year. Okay, that's thank God that has ended, because that was very difficult to sustain. But the housing prices aren't going down. We live in a community and an area and a region that there is no inventory. Even if we go back prior to COVID, we were still low in inventory, people. Okay. We were still not a balanced market. So because the inventory is so low, there is always going to be a demand for homes in average plus condition and an average plus location.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's always there's changes. There's some variable here if your home isn't up to par or it's on a main road. You know, those are different stories. But an average plus condition or an average plus location, there's just a low inventory. A balanced real estate market inventory is, if I'm correct, 4 to 6 months of inventory, correct?
So 6 months is considered balance. If it's less than 6 months, then it's going to be a seller's market. If there's more than 6 months of inventory, then it's a buyer's market. So because you've got more homes. Now we have got to realize that part of the inventory level, and when those interest rates got down as low as they did, we had an influx of millennials that were ready to buy, right? So they were signing more than 50% of the mortgage applications that were being processed during that time frame. When you talk to the mortgage lenders, it was millennials, because they had spent the last 2 years saving, not spending money during COVID, and not going out and doing all of those things. Now take a look at, okay, now they're ready to buy. Well, we hadn't had new construction for years and years and years because of what happened in 08. So all of a sudden you have 14 years of no real severe construction happening around here. If you come around where I am up north from you, we've got builders everywhere putting in new construction of townhomes and things of that sort, because now there's such a need for it that they can do that again. But that lull, so until inventory starting with that new construction, you know, there's going to remain some level of lower inventory. But one of the things that you and I talked about yesterday when we were prepping for this is, you know, there's a lot of people that don't want to lose that rate that they refied, right? So they're staying in their homes because, oh, interest rates. And again, date the rate, marry the house, but oh, I refinanced and it was 3%, and I don't want to buy a house at 6.5%.
Right.
What I've been telling buyers that are anxiously like, oh my gosh, there's not enough inventory, I'm never going to buy a house, is there are 5 Ds in real estate. All right. So you've got your diamonds, you got engaged, and you're going to now buy a home together. You've got your diapers because the babies are coming and you need to get a bigger house. Sadly, you have divorce where homes are going to be sold. You have aging that are downsizing. And then sadly, people die and we have estates. And there's always going to be so and debt. It could be there's another D, debt, right? You can't afford to keep your house and it gets taken from you.
You added a sixth. We have to
I
change.
just did.
You did.
I know. I was thinking about that because, hopefully there are not going to be a ton of foreclosures and things, but at the end of the day, there's debt to not being able to afford your house. So there are reasons why homes are going to be showing up for sale and why people are going to have to sell, even though they may not want to.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are, those are things that we need to be there for. I mean, we're their consultant, we're their everything for all of these pieces. So when we were studying for our real estate license, they need to add a section in therapy. I wasn't thinking about talking about this, but I mean, all of those D's come with a really heavy load. I mean, sometimes it's happy and sometimes it's difficult, but they're big loads, So anyway, back to the 2024 and the world going on in real estate. What are you seeing with your buyers and sellers today? Like, I'm still seeing that my sellers are starting to get ready, actually. That's great news. I have a couple sellers that are starting to get ready. So one of them is selling an investment property and one of them is downsizing out of the family home, but moving into town. So I've had several people that even though they're giving up their low mortgage, they're willing to do it for a complete change like that. Whether it's renting or buying something else in town, buying something new in town. My buyers, it's really funny. I've been working with the same buyers for over 6 to 12 months now.
Okay.
And they just seem to be unmotivated.
I have a few of those as well. And I think that it's discouragement that, I have one couple that I've been working with for almost 2 years and they were all gun ho, and then interest rates went up, and then there's less of a house now than what they thought they were going to be getting when it was at that 3 and 4% versus that 6.5 now. I have a couple listings that are going to be coming where they wanted to wait for the spring market and explaining to them that no, you don't want to wait until, I understand it's prettier when your trees are blooming and your yard is clean, but that's when you're also going up against more competition. Because everyone has that mindset of a spring market. So getting on that market in March before everybody else, you have less competition. So that's one of the things that I've been telling the sellers. It's also been difficult with sellers for them to understand that the market isn't what it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, where they were getting multiple offers way over asking price because of that. Trying to educate them that you cannot undersell a house, but you sure can overprice a house.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. So the people understand what we're talking about. So our listeners understand. So the mindset of very many people is, okay, my neighbor got 500.
Right.
He listed at 450, multiple offers, got 500. I want to list at 500 and I'm going to get 550.
Yeah, that's not happening.
And that's a problem. Now, I will say for a year and a half, that was true. Every single listing was being raised, whatever percentage it was, for that community. But it's not anymore. So people are still saying, oh, well, my neighbor sold. I'm going to do what they sold for and expect that same bump.
Right.
it's a tough conversation that we've
It
all
is, and it can upset people, but if we, by doing our due diligence, if you hire us because we are the experts, Sharon, we know what we're talking about. You invited me into your home
yeah,
because you trust the fact that I know what I'm talking about.
right.
So then it has to have that conversation with them of, trust me, I have never undersold a house before. I've never been told, haha, I got that for a steal. Like, people are willing to, especially when you're at those 25%, oh, I want to list it for 475. And you're like, okay, well, if you're at 475 and someone's only approved up to 475, then they know that they can't go above 475. So they're not looking at you. And just
There's
kind of
another,
talking to them
that's,
about how a buyer finances your listing as well.
how about just a buyer's mentality? So, I mean, I work with 50% buyers, and I know that people think now, because of those crazy couple of years, that if something's listed at 475, they think it's going to go for 525.
Right.
So if they're only comfortable or approved to 500, they're not even looking at the house.
Yep.
Even
You're
though
right.
you know, and your seller knows, they're willing to sell it for 485, 500. But that
Right.
buyer isn't looking, which actually brings you less offers, less competition, not as good terms. Okay.
Right.
Which is all what it boils back. If we go backwards, that's what it boils down to.
Mhm.
So you need to recognize that people, the buyers of today, if they've been in the market a little bit, which a lot of them have been, they're
Mhm.
expecting the house to go so much over, which means that if it's at their budgetary limit, they're not even going to look at the house.
Right. And
So
then
you're
the other thing I think that needs to be discussed is inspections. You
mm,
know, sellers again are expecting, oh, well, I'm selling the house and inspections, I'll take the offers that don't have inspections, or a buyer saying, oh, I have to waive inspections. I never encourage a buyer to waive their inspections. There's too much liability that's there for them.
yeah,
With that said, they're making those decisions to waive because of the multiple offer situations. But it a seller has to be educated that you can't just assume you're not going to be asked
correct.
for inspections.
Right. That is definitely turning for sure. And it all boils down to pricing, because
Mhm.
the more competition you have at the right type of pricing, the more people are willing to accept not doing
Right.
an inspection, because they're like, all right, I really want the house. If you don't have somebody that's dying for the house at the right price, they're going to say,
Mhm.
well, but I really don't want to take on those whatever questionable issues that may be on that
Right.
house. So pricing is so key to
It
the
is.
entire process.
Yep.
So what does that mean? It means that you and your agent should really, really take some time to digest the previous pricing and the condition of the houses as best as you can. We can't drive by or see inside every single
Right.
house. And
Right.
yes, the real estate photographer's photos are fabulous. So if you're looking at your competition, the pictures are great. Maybe it's 90% great. Maybe it's not
Right.
100% great. But try to do your due diligence and really sleep on it. Don't make it emotional.
Right.
That's the hardest part for sellers. For
Absolutely.
for sure. If it was just a business deal that they were making, it would be a whole different story.
Well, it's funny because when I started, when I started in real estate, I was a buyer's agent. I did not, I
Yes, I know
referred
this.
my, and I had said, oh, I'm going to deal with buyers because they're happy and they're not emotional and
Right.
it's just so much more fun to work with. Well, then the market changed completely and it was like, okay, it's time to list and buy. But when I first got into real estate, that was a big part is sellers can be very emotional.
Oh yeah.
And just through the years, having gained the experience of understanding how to talk to them, because everybody's different, right?
Yeah, this is a good segue into something that I want to talk about just for a second, because it's actually the favorite thing that I do in my career
Okay.
is work with sellers in preparing them, making a plan for their sale, for their listing.
Mhm.
I mean, literally, one of my favorite things is to get the opportunity to go into a house early, walk through every, inch with the sellers, give my recommendations, send them referrals to their painter and their carpet and their handyman, and find new light fixtures and yada, yada, yada,
You
yada.
have a, well, I'm going to plug you here. Don't you have a little pamphlet that you created that you give to your clients?
I mean, I have all sorts of materials, but the actual going room to room and taking pictures before, so I have the before,
Mhm.
after, and holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, sometimes people think that their realtor um is doing everything, like that you're going to sell it for me. You're Sharon, you're going to sell it for me. And I'm like, but we have to be partners, and
Right.
you have to follow the recommendations that I'm giving you and the list of to-dos. I mean, down to every bulb in the kitchen should be lit and matching.
Right.
And again, and I tell my clients all the time, I don't practice what I preach, but what I preach works. So
Right.
all the bulbs should match. Um, all these things that we recommend. I recommend a lot of taking of pictures down off the walls. And I'm
Yeah,
not
me
talking
too.
about the personal pictures. I'm not so worried about people's personal pictures. But if things don't match, if they're just sort of stuck there just because there was an open wall, like,
Mhm.
let's take it down. So, but sellers have to be a part of this,
Right. 100%.
So it's lovely that people trust us, to do our job, but it also is a partnership. Something I was just going to plug for something I'm working on.
It
Anyway,
is definitely a partnership.
so I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Give us a 30 or 60-second commercial for Shelby Leight Real Estate.
So, I guess what I would say is for me, I I love helping. I love helping everyone. I mean, I think you know that it's a genuineness about me. I make the attempt to be that light, Shelby Light, be that light for my clients. One of the things that I'm proud to say, although I don't want to use that word, is that coming from a team with great faith, we pray as a team every Monday morning at 8:45 for our clients and our brokers and our co-brokers and all of our, just in general. Monday morning, 8:45 is prayer time. And what I pride myself with is when I tell my clients is that what's meant to be is meant to be. I have a brand new buyer real quick that, oh, I got to find this house, and what fear of missing out, fear of missing out. And you're not missing out, I assure you. The right place is going to show up at the right time. And so that's one of the things that I pride myself on is that I'm pretty even keeled, especially with those emotions that you need someone to be the steady. And so it's be still and know is what I try and live my life by.
Yeah, that's a good one. I will say it's funny. I was thinking about that recently about the right house will, the right thing will happen. It's meant to be when
Mhm.
it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I will say I have never had a client come back after being disappointed by losing out on things. Never had a client come back and say, "Oh, I'm still in love with that other one." And
Neither have I.
after they've bought, never,
Nope,
never.
me
So
either.
it really is meant to be at the right time. It is meant to be.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So since we're getting tight on time, it is now time to turn the table. So I always at the end of my segments, I always allow my guest to ask me a question. So your turn.
So I went through your other videos to kind of hear, what people have asked you and so forth. And it was interesting to me that no one picked up on something that I think is really important for you. So I'm going to plug you again because I love you and you're my friend. You do a lot in the community.
Mhm.
You do an awful lot to empower people to know their strengths. You're a genuinely very good person. And I know that you head up a women's group that is called BW Nice.
Mhm.
And I'd like you to tell your audience what BW Nice is, But then my question for you is why is it so important to you?
Okay. Thank you for bringing this up. I haven't brought it up yet. I mean, people who follow me know that I run a networking group, but I haven't brought
You
it
do
up
more than that, Sharon.
here.
You do a whole lot more than just run a networking group. So
So
go ahead.
BW Nice Montgomery County is a chapter of a women's networking group. That just a little backstory. I do a lot of networking since I started in this business, meeting other business people, meeting other entrepreneurs, soulpreneurs, et cetera, throughout, Philadelphia, even downtown and all the suburbs. So this one came to me, and this group not only learns about each other's businesses and empowers each other, but we have a charity component, which is actually about 50% of the philosophy behind the group. So each chapter that is all around the country is connected to the local domestic violence agency in that county. So we are connected to Laurel House, which is located in Lansdale. They have a couple different facilities, East Norton and Lansdale. And so a domestic violence agency, what does that mean? Because a big part of what we do is try to educate people. Domestic violence agency isn't just a home to take people in that need to get out of their home. It's really an educational platform to teach people around your region what domestic violence even is. Because 30 years ago, it wasn't even a term. And it's not just physical abuse, it's also very often strictly emotional, manipulating abuse. And then sometimes it will turn physical and violent. But that being said, we are very connected to Laurel House. We have a liaison on both sides that connect. We do a lot of fundraising for Laurel House. My chapter's only been around for a year and a half, and we're just planning our first what we call Red Shoe event, which is going to be a really big fundraiser, May 17th in Flourtown. And I'm really proud to be the president of the group. We're really coming together. Our membership is top. We have the most members of any chapter in the country. We're growing every single month. We have monthly meetings, monthly lunch meetings, and bi-monthly happy hours to raise awareness and raise money. And yeah, it's an awesome group. Was there a second question? Because that was
the question is why is that so important to you?
Okay, now you're gonna make me get a little personal.
Told me that, and there was no questions off.
Yes. Unfortunately, so what happened was I heard about through our mutual friend Cindy Seener about this networking group BW Nice that at the time didn't have a Montgomery County chapter because I started that. But anyway, that has a charity partner. She never told me what the charity partner was. I never asked what the charity partner was. I was just like, there's got to be more to this networking thing than just chatting and lunching. There's got to be more. So the charity thing really, then I found out it was for a domestic violence agency. And then I started talking to Laurel House, et cetera. And unfortunately, without, exploiting too much, there's a history in my family, very close in my family, that I've been dealing with. My parents have been dealing with. We've actually used the services at Laurel House to try to help us understand what we're going through. I've unfortunately had to read books and learn a lot more about it than I ever thought I would. And it's gone so full circle into my world because I was working with a dear client, friend of mine, and I knew she was getting divorced. I knew she was in a not a good divorce. But she and I were just chit-chatting, in the driveway at a house that we had gone to view. And next thing you know, I looked at her and I said, "Are you safe at home?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "I don't think I am. I think I'm realizing I might not be." So I connected her to some resources. So it's fucked up. It's just, it's there. It's meant to be.
Well, the reality is though,
We have 2 minutes left on our time.
I think what's important is that you saying what has just happened, that there should be no shame in anything. If you're in an unsafe place,
Thank you.
you need to share it. You need to go to someone that you trust, because there's got to be someone. But if there's not, there are resources that are out there like Laurel House, or a woman's place from Doylestown, or
Mhm.
Third Street Alliance that's up in the Lehigh Valley. There are places for you to go if you need it. And I will end by thanking you for sharing that, because I blindsided you with that question.
Good.
But it's really important for people to know, because I've had clients as well
Yeah.
that, we might be the person that they tell. And
Thank
we're
you for bringing it
counselors.
up.
We're counselors,
Yeah,
right?
and it's funny. I am going to be interviewing, hopefully Jill Deeves from Laurel House shortly on this podcast, because she lives in our community. She lives in Plymouth Meeting, so
Awesome.
I'm going to be interviewing her soon. And thank you for bringing that up. It was needed. Yes. So we're going to wrap it up. Shelby, thank you so much. I hope we can have dinner
Thank you.
tomorrow night, but it's supposed to snow again, but we're scheduled to.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not looking
Hopefully we
good.
have dinner tomorrow night.
We may be on Zoom again tomorrow night, but thank you for sharing. Thank you. I hope our listeners enjoyed or got something out of some of our conversation.
I
And
really appreciate you allowing me to be on this.
yeah, to find any more, check out my YouTube channel, Life in the Suburbs with Sharon, and all the other social networks under Sharon Loudenbach. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.